Good afternoon, James. I'd just like to ask you a few questions on behalf of SLAMXHYPE. Firstly, I'd like to know, how did this project with Nike come about, and what are your thoughts on collaborative artworks in general?
Well, the project came about because A-Side at Nike UK asked me if I'd like to design a large format character or sculpture, one of my characters, for a window. And because I'd never done anything on that scale, not in 3D before, I thought it was an interesting opportunity to do something on a large scale. And I've been very picky about working, especially with Nike, because I've known people working at Nike for quite a few years, and I've had various offers to do projects, but often for me they were not the right kind of thing for me to be doing, and sort of too related to the fashion side of things. And because the window was just a bigger scale thing, it kind of offered a slightly newer kind of challenge. So I decided to bite the bullet and jump in bed with the man. And in terms of collaborations in general, I think collaborations with companies, big or small, is a kind of inevitable part of being a commercial artist. And the fact is, I'm not a fine artist, I'm an illustrator, that's what I trained as. And so my work is about communicating kind of ideas in mass production. So you sort of inevitably end up working with people, whether it's magazines commissioning you or starting your own company to produce your toys like I have done, or being asked by a company like Nike to do something. The kind of collaboration, the sort of double label collaboration that's become slightly ubiquitous in the world of street culture is something I'm much less interested in. I think that, to me, is a watered down version of one or other of the artists, and I much prefer kind of people's particular things. That being said, I've done a collaboration with Bounty Hunter in making a double label toy, but that was a lot to do with the 10-year anniversary of us getting into making toys in the first place, and a way of celebrating the people who helped us get into it.
Absolutely. So it has extra significance.
So it has a significance, but I think it's become a slightly... Initially it was a kind of novel way of people finding new ways of doing things, and now it's become a kind of less of an interesting statement, I think, to make those kind of collaborations.
Of course. And I'd also like to know, what is the one thing that has most enabled you to succeed in this industry that we're talking about?
I don't really know what industry. That's an interesting question, because I see myself as having come out of a completely different world to the world that I suppose I'm seen as being a part of, that kind of world of street culture. You know, I trained as an illustrator, and I followed a very traditional path of illustration, studying it for a master's degree, and I always thought I'd be drawing children's books for a living. And for various reasons, because of things I was interested in, like skateboarding, I ended up working for Slam City and meeting Russell and Sophie, who did the label Silas, that I collaborated with for several years, and getting into toys, and this whole kind of career path that I've ended up following, which has actually been quite a kind of random thing. It was never something I set out to do. So I still see myself as an illustrator and somebody who draws for a living, and so I suppose the thing I see that enabled me to do that and achieve that was, you know, just learning to draw, and a kind of really serious application to learning the art of drawing, which I've been doing ever since I was able to hold a pencil.
Absolutely.
So, but in terms of the world that I've ended up building a career in, I think it's a lot more to do with, less to do with talent, and a lot more to do with meeting people and being open to kind of opportunities.
So yeah, to explore new ideas.
Yeah,
so having, obviously on that subject therefore, did you feel, having seen the work that you've done within the window at Nike Town, obviously the things that have been applied in store, do you feel that they were successful? Are you happy with them, and you feel that you conveyed what you tried to convey in the best possible manner, taking on something of that size?
I think, I mean, the funny thing about the project was, it was interesting, was that A-Side asked me to do it, and I agreed to do it purely because of the opportunity to make something big, which I'd never done before. And because the sort of timescale for it all happening was fairly Swift, I ended up doing a design. Like Asa said, what would you do if you did do this? So I did a very quick version, which got circulated and people approved it. So I ended up making this sculpture based on this. It's a bit like the Stonehenge sketch in Spinal Tap. You know, I drew it on the back of a napkin, and suddenly this thing gets. I mean, not quite as crude as that, but it suddenly gets made. So in fact, I think I'm a very bad critic of myself, and I tend not to see the things that work, but the things that didn't work.
Okay.
But actually, no. I mean, it's had a brilliant reception, and as far as I'm concerned, that's how I rate the success of anything. It's nothing to do with what I think; it's to do with how people perceive it. And
Absolutely.
If people look at it and like it, then it's a success. And, you know, it's not an art statement. That's the thing I think that gets forgotten, possibly in the world that we're in. You know, it's a window display, and if it had been a pure art statement, I probably would have approached it in a slightly different way. But it's quite. You know,
it certainly still has an artistic impact on people that see it, though, doesn't it? So.
Oh, I think so. I think there's always that thing where, for the artist, you might be much more aware of those elements that were compromised, whereas the person who's looking at it doesn't think about that and doesn't worry about that. And that's the great thing about making work and getting it out there, because however much you might worry about the things that you wished you'd done differently, nobody else cares. They either like it or they don't. I mean, I'm hoping that people like it. It seems to have got a good reception. My mum and dad thought it was good. So, you know.
That's a big box check then.
That's a good check, because, you know, they don't think I'm wasting my time.